All right, showtime. Why is silver stagnant and when will it start moving? Welcome to another episode of the Black Bullion Show, and this is a really special one. I'm happy to get started with this one because it's on a lot of people's minds. This is from Jeff Clark, and we're going to break down why silver is stagnant. Now, one of the main reasons why Jeff Clark is positing that silver is stagnant right now when we're going through arguably one of the worst crises that we've seen since some people call it the Great Depression. What Jim Rickers has said is the start of the worst recession we've seen since the Great Moderation in the 1870s, almost 150 years. One of the main reasons is that silver does not perform well during drawbacks, during recessions. And the primary reason why is because silver is primarily an industrial metal. Now, I'm going to show you some data right here so we can get into it. But before we begin, I just want to say if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Helps get this economic evangelism out there. And please like the video. If you like what you hear, you like what you see. All right, so take a look at the chart to the bottom right. Uh, you might have seen this before if you're familiar with the channel, but this is essentially the breakdown of the demand for silver. And what you'll notice in the top right of the screen is that the demand for silver actually is based on uh, primarily the market is mostly industrial, or actually we should say non-monetary in its basis. Only a very small part of it is investor related. So obviously when there's a recession or there's a drawback, you can at least say that 50% give or take of the market in silver just halts. And you could even posit and say, well, maybe even upwards of close to 30% of it also stops as well. If we're talking about jewelry retailers and silverware as well. Now, one of the reasons that we can basically take a look at this is and say this is because over the course of this um, 9 year period here from 2009 to 2018, the overall distribution of demand changes a bit, but for the most part, it's roughly 80% non monetary, give or take. There are some times when it's over 80%, and I'll tell you when that is. But for the most part, it's roughly around 80%. So let's get started. In 2009, I did the addition beforehand, so you guys don't have to do it quickly while looking through these. In 2009, 90.4% of the market was non monetary. In 2010, 83.4% of the market was non monetary. So now it's trending downward. In 2011, 80.9% was non monetary. Now, you may be wondering, or maybe calling, like, oh, yeah, that's when there's that height of the bull market in precious metals. And you will be correct. So things are trending downward from 2009 to 2011. Now you're going to see a change here. In 2012, it's 83.7%. So now we're going up a little bit. But then we go down a little bit more. 2013, we're at 78.6%. 2014, 79.1% non-monetary demand. 2015, we're at 74.7% non-monetary demand. In 2016, we're at 79.8% non-monetary demand. In 2017, we're at 85% non-monetary demand. In 2018, we're at 82.5% non-monetary demand. Now, later on this article that Jeff Clark writes, he says that in 2019, 81% of the market was actually non-monetary. So things in recent years have been trending downwards from 2017 to 2019 as far as non-monetary demand, but still is relatively high, roughly around 80%. Um, and if you take a look at at the distribution here, let's look at it relative to the price of the highs for silver in those given years. So let's compare. In 2009, the height of silver was $19.18. In 2009, non monetary demand was 90.4%. Okay? So we already know what's going to happen next. 2010, the price of silver goes up to $30.70, but the industrial demand drops from 90.4% in 2009 to 83.4% in 2010. And the trend is generally negative correlation. There were only 4 years in this period of time when there wasn't a negative correlation. That was in 2013, that was in 2015, that was in 2016, and that was in 2018. So we had 4 years where there is somewhat of a positive correlation with the highs of silver that year and with the industrial demand. So, but generally, for the most part, there's negative correlation. So, again, when the economy slows down, you can expect to say that roughly 80% of the silver market would then begin to slow. You would at least have to say 50% of it would have to slow. So obviously it takes a huge hit, and then you have to start wondering, well, where does the capital flow? A lot of capital flows to safe havens. So then that is why you see things like this. Gold usually performs positively during recessions. Now take a look. In this chart, you're going to see 7 recessions, and you're going to see out of the 7, in 5 of them, gold performs positively. 5 out of 7, gold does pretty well. And in one of the times it doesn't do well, it only drops by 1.8%. And one of them, you definitely see a 9.1% drop. Okay, so let's take a look at silver. How does it perform during recessions? Silver is usually weak during recessions. Take a look at this. In 7 out of the last 9, silver performs terribly. And in the 2 instances where it doesn't, it goes up pretty decently. But 7 out of the 9, or I'm sorry, 5 out of the 9 last, 5 out of the 7 last recessions, silver does terribly relative to gold. And one of the reasons why that is, obviously, is because most of the demand for gold is for monetary investment purposes. And for the use cases for silver, there are many, but the magnitude of it is primarily for non-monetary purposes. So when you take that into consideration, during recessionary periods when the economy slows, that means industrial demand is likely going to slow. But what does that mean after the fact? Well, that means that silver has a longer fuse before it goes up. And that's what Jeff Clark actually calls in his explanations or his solutions to this issue. He basically gives 3. The first one he sees as far as what remedies this usually after the recessions is inflation, 1. Number 2, he says there's a longer fuse for silver relative to gold. So usually silver lags behind gold, but one of the reasons for that is because silver underperforms for the most part during recessions. And then the third one, he says that likely there's going to be a hyperinflation after this next one. just due to all the money being sloshed around due to the monetary and fiscal stimulus that's been going on here. Um, so, for all of us who are invested in silver right now, I know a lot of us are worried, wiping our brows. Don't be too worried right now. Just know that during these periods of time, silver is 5 times out of 7 going to get smacked in the face. So don't be too worried. Don't be too downcast. That's just how it is with silver. But just know after that period, silver should perform. So, with the, you know, very tired saying that that goes on in the investment world goes, what do you do when you're looking at an asset class and you want to get the maximum performance out of it? Well, you buy low and then you sell high. So during this period of just silver getting the wind knocked out of it, what would you do? Buy low, sell high. So for those of you who are worried about what's going to be happening with silver in the future, just know that things are going to be looking up from here. But let me know what you think. Do you think that the industrial demand doesn't matter anymore? Do you think it matters? Let me know in the comment section below. Please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. And it's Black Bullion. Thank you.